a work project, a relationship, COVID. But when my Bolivian friend called me earlier this year to invite me over and show me around and going on road trips and everything, it was an easy yes for me. So, hello everyone, I'm Omar from Egypt, and today I'm going to talk to you about Bolivia, the first country I went to during my sabbatical. So there it is, in the middle of South America, more or less. If you look at it, you probably think it's not too big, especially next to its neighbors, Brazil and Argentina. But looking at it with some perspective, Germany has a size of 357,000 square kilometers. Bolivia is 3 times the size of Germany. And if you look at the population, Germany has 83 million people living on that land, while Bolivia has only 12 million living in all that space. So you can already imagine there's a lot of wildlife and wilderness out there to explore. And when it comes to languages, of course, we all know Germany has one language, the language of beer, German. And Bolivia has 36 official languages. You might wonder, I thought it was Spanish. Spanish is the one mostly spoken in the cities, but as soon as you get out to the villages and towns, you come across all these indigenous languages. There are still communities speaking them, and they actually don't understand the word of Spanish. So there it is, same with the diversity as its people. It also has a diverse landscape. If you can see at the top there, you have the Amazon rainforest. To the east here, you have the lowlands and the jungles. In the middle, over there, you have the Andes Mountains. And to its west, you have the highlands and the deserts. So a lot of different landscapes. But before we get into the different places, let's talk about cuisine. It's the same as its people and its landscapes. Bolivia has a very diverse cuisine. The reason behind that actually is every region has its own cuisine. There is no such thing as Bolivian cuisine. It's only every region has its own recipe, and you actually only find that food in that place. So if you want to try a specific meal, they'll tell you, hey, you need to go to that city, you'll only find it there. It doesn't exist anywhere else. So you have, in every place, you almost feel like you're in a new country when it comes to cuisine. And the sizes are also, portions are pretty big, as you can see from the top there, and will only cost you back 2 or 3 euros when you go to the local markets. But my favorite hot meal was a soup, surprisingly. Let's take a look. So this soup is actually served with a volcanic stone in the middle, and which is keeping it very hot and nice for you. It was super delicious. And that, again, exists only in one city, because they get the volcanic stone from nearby, that city. And for dessert, my Bolivian friend actually told me, hey, there's this place outside of the city, it's the best ice cream in the world. I'm like, really? I thought to myself, like, okay, it's maybe good, but I thought she would be exaggerating a little bit. So she took me to that place. It's not even on the map. It's outside of the city, run by a local family. It's not a chain, there's only one. And I tasted it. Oh boy. I was overwhelmed with emotions. I was surprised, I was crying, I was laughing. Those are tears. And if you want to go to Bolivia and taste the best ice cream in the world, I can tell you she was not exaggerating. Let's have a chat after and I can tell you how to reach it. So, moving on to moving around. I thought about naming this section transportation, but you'll soon figure out why I didn't, because sometimes there isn't any, sometimes things go wrong and you have to find a way to move around. So, if you're moving within the city, you can take this very colorful local public transport. It will cost you maybe 20 cents in euros. You can also take a taxi. Yes, that's a taxi. It's not colored in any way. It's just an old car with a taxi sign at the front windshield. And that's all. And it's a unified price, actually, so it doesn't matter where you're going, you only pay one price, which is 5 Bolivianos. In euros, that's 60 to 70 cents. Not bad for a private ride. You can also take a car and drive around, but this is for the very brave. because you can encounter mountain roads like this one, dirt roads, very narrow, they don't have railings on the side, so you're exposed to falling. And there on the right, actually, there's my friend and the mechanic inside the car, because in this turn, while we were climbing, at this place exactly, the car broke down. I was pressing the accelerator, no power, it started going back. I was pressing the brakes, no brakes, started going back, and then we needed to pull the handbrakes. The handbrakes literally saved our lives in that case, so always remember the handbrakes, that will always work for you. This is after we moved already the car, because, I mean, we were right there almost. I mean, there was no time for pictures, we had more important things to worry about. And another time also we were driving in the middle of the night on a mountain road similar to this one, but we were driving at night inside a cloud for an hour with falling rocks, animals on the road, holes in the ground, you name it. So you need to be very prepared for the driving conditions you can see there. Another option is to take buses to move around. However, you need to be prepared to be flexible on this one. In that case, for example, this bus was overnight for 12 hours, and around 4 a.m. I was sleeping, I woke up, I found that the bus had already stopped. People were chatting and I could sense this nervousness in their voices. And I was trying to ask what was going on. No one understood English, my Spanish is terrible. So I actually got a lady to write me something on Google Translate, and apparently the brakes had failed and the driver left us there in the middle of nowhere, nothing around us, in the middle of the night. He was like, screw it, I'm out of here. So, and actually had a screenshot of the message she wrote me. I thought it would be a nice memory to have. There you go. The brakes were scrubbed and the driver is not there. It is going to take us. We are going to take another bus or whatever. Yeah. And you can see the time of up there, 4 a.m. Just in the middle of nowhere, like no cars passing by, nothing. So we waited 30 minutes after. This truck came along. Apologize for the picture quality, but you know. And it agreed to take 20 of us on the back of this truck. It had no ceiling at the top. So it was just a wooden tank at the back of the truck, and we were just sitting there on the wood. And we had still 4 hours to drive, and thankfully it was going the same direction as we were. But it was super cold, the roof was open, at least you could see the stars. And when the sun started coming out, this is how it looked like. So, you know, in the Hollywood movies where they sometimes show Mexicans like on the back of a truck trying to get into the US or whatever, it felt a little bit like that. But at least, you know, we were chatting, we had a good chat, trying to in Spanish, and we had the stars at night, and when the sun came out, we had these mountains all around us, so at least it was a pretty ride. You can also hitchhike, like I did here on the back of a semi-truck. Or you can go trekking from one place to another. However, I would advise to have a stick with you, because when I did that, I was attacked by 3 savage dogs at the same time, and I encountered 2 snakes. So a stick is very useful in that case. Also, when you're moving around, there are usually checkpoints by the police between regions. And by checkpoint, I mean just a rope hanging across the street, and by police, I mean that they're sitting comfortably in the kiosk on the sides, and you're the one that have to stop the car, get out of the car, go to them, and ask them to let you through. So it's in reverse in that way. So when we did that, my friend, my Bolivian friend, she went over to them, because she's the local, and then a few minutes later she came back and said, hey, the policemen want to talk to you, and you need to bring your passport. I didn't look Bolivian, obviously, but guess why they wanted me there? El dinero. Unfortunately, that's the case with a lot of police interactions there. They will always try a way to get something out of you. And the conversation usually goes something like, hey, they tell you, hey, we want to help you, like we appreciate you here, we want to help you, but you have to cooperate with us, you know, you have to un poco cooperación conmigo, and everything works. So, another time, at that time it went smoothly at the checkpoint, but there was another time it didn't go so smoothly. They sent us to the police station, locked us in a cell, and they interrogated us for some time. But you need to be prepared for those kinds of interactions. There are tricky waters to go through. Now you're probably wondering, looks like a mess to try to go, or a hassle to try to go from one place to another. Is it all worth it? Now let's take a look at some of the places. I won't be able to go through all of the places we went to, but some of the highlights. So we started in Santa Cruz and going to Toro Toro. Toro Toro is a small village in the middle of nowhere almost, in the middle between the mountains. But there you can see these footprints. Can you guess who these footprints belong to?
A little mouse.
It was millions and millions of years ago. Dinosaurs walked this earth, this place. And it was actually the first time I realized that there are still footprints to this day that you can see of dinosaurs. And the reason they survived this long is because this part was next to a lake and it was muddy. So when dinosaurs walked on the mud, they left their footprints, and by the time this mud got petrified, it turned into rock. So when it turned into rock, it maintained its shape of the footprints in them. So you can see footprints of many kinds of dinosaurs there. And it's a place also where there's a lot of tectonic plates movements. So there are a lot of amazing rock formations and mountain formations. You can see this one here, for example. The reason why it looks like this is because these were, back in the day, these were layers in the ground. And because of the tectonic plate movements, they turned vertical over time. Over millions of years, they turned vertical. That's how mountains usually form, but you don't see it clearly, the layers, but in this one, it's super clear. Now, if you look at this and you're a rock climber, you probably wonder, this is a great place to do it, and that's what we went for as well. You can hire a guide to take you around there for €5 for the entire day. Pretty good value for money. And as well, whenever you go out of the village to those mountains, there are a lot of street dogs, and at least one will always come with you. They won't let you go alone. The dogs, they'll just accompany you and be your friend, and that dog was with us for 2 whole days, actually, hiking in the mountains. Going south a little bit to Sucre. Sucre is one of the 2 capitals of Bolivia, and they call it La Ciudad Blanca, which means the white city. And it's pretty easy once you're there to see why they call it that. If you can zoom in a little bit. Everything is white almost around you. The buildings, even the cars, look at the cars. In the whole street, there's only one car in the middle that's not white. So it's pretty interesting to see. After that, we made our way a little bit west to Potosí, to the highlands. And you might look at this and think, oh, it's a short distance, but it was actually a 4-hour bus ride going up. It was just going up the whole way for 4 hours until it reaches the destination of Potosí, which is at 4,090 meters above sea level. It has a mountain also, 4,800 meters, and in comparison, Mount Fuji is 300 meters below that. Now, if you go to a place that high up, that fast, in 4 hours, you will quickly realize the lack of oxygen you will have. And as soon as we went off the bus, I walked for 10 minutes. You cannot breathe. Any activity you do there, you will get very tired very quickly over there. And you can even see from my lips, they're super dry. And even at night, I was always waking up by being suffocated almost. Like at night, I would wake up, not able to breathe. So your body needs some time to get used to this, for sure. Now, this city looks a little bit poor, not very well developed. However, it was one of the richest cities in the world back in its heyday. And that's thanks to this mountain next to it, which is called Cerro Rico. Cerro Rico stands for Rich Mountain. And it's named like that because it's so rich in minerals and especially silver. And then when the Spanish, in the colonial times, when the Spanish came over, they forced a lot of African and indigenous slaves into extracting a lot of silver from that mine, from the mines of that mountain. They extracted over 60,000 tons of silver up to now. That's the biggest silver deposit ever known to human. And you can actually go on a tour to those mines. The mines are still active to this day. Almost 20,000 people work there nowadays. They're all a maze of very narrow tunnels with many floors, and to go between floors you have to take these narrow ladders. It's really amazing. You need to have a tour guide with you. And you can see I'm smiling there in that picture on the left, but that was probably the only time I regretted ever smiling in a picture, because of the stories you hear while you're in the mines, and you hear the miners' stories, because they endure very difficult work conditions. They work 15 to 20 hour work shifts without food, without water, because they don't have toilets inside. They work with dynamite explosives, which they have to lit up, and they have 30 seconds, because they lit it up manually. They have 30 seconds to run for their lives after lighting up the dynamite. And they actually did light up dynamite, 12 dynamites while we were there, 12 dynamite explosions. Of the 20,000 people that work there nowadays, 14 people on average die every month. Now that's a lot. So it's a strong place with a strong story. And that's why, on the right here, in every single mine of them, they have a figure of the devil. And that's because these miners almost pray to the devil. Why? Because they pray to the devil not to take their lives. That's how they worship it almost. But the place has a very important significance in history, as they extract the silver from there, but as well they mint it, so they make the coins. And those are some of the examples of the 18th century. If you can see the logo there, they have on every one of them. Back in that day, when coins were minted in any place, they would have the initials of the city printed on the coins. So Potosi had 4 letters printed on it. It had the P, the T, the S, and the I. But over time, and because these coins were shipped in many places, and over time they got depleted a little bit. So the P started to disappear, the T started to disappear, and the I of the dot of the I. Does this look familiar? That, ladies and gentlemen, is believed to be the origin of the dollar sign. So it was that important of a place in producing coins and producing money. Now there we are in Potosi. Our last highlight would be in Uyuni, that big white place over there. And that's an appropriate actually angle to look at it, because outside of locals, it was discovered for the first time by astronauts. Astronauts looked at this and were like, what is all this white space? And there we went to Uyuni, and there it is, over 10,000 square kilometers in size, which is 12 times the size of Berlin. It's estimated to have 11 billion tons of salt. This is all salt, and it's flat, completely flat, and it's amazing to see, because we're driving here on the right, especially we're driving at 100 kilometers an hour. And usually when you're driving, you see things moving. When you look at the horizon, you see things moving, even from an airplane. You look at the ground, even you see it moving slowly. But here you look at the horizon and there's nothing. It's just standing still. So you only feel the car moving, and if you look at the ground, but that's it. And in the middle, there's a salt hotel. It's made entirely out of salt cubes. You can see there from the walls. It's made out of salt. The chairs as well, the tables. So you can stay there for a night actually. And it's one of the best places to see the stars at night, because it's super clear and away from everything. So it's a great place for your peace of mind, maybe for a proposal. That guy came to me shortly before and said, hey, told me about his plan, I'm going to propose to my girlfriend, can you take a picture? So it's a good place to do it as well. It's a great place to take perspective pictures. So you can have a lot of fun with those, and this is a prime place for your creative imagination. This one. And then just before sunset, you go to this place where there's still a lot of water on the ground from the rain that is still on the ground. And what does it make? It makes the biggest mirror in the world. And you can observe the sunset just sip a glass of wine and just admire. So that was it for our tour. As you can see, we traveled for almost 4 to 5 weeks, and we still didn't cover a lot of the ground in Bolivia. There's still a lot to discover. We especially had La Paz and the area around it in our itinerary, but we got COVID when we were in Cochabamba, so we quarantined for 2 weeks and that was cancelled, but it leaves something for next time. And there are still a lot of places for next time that we didn't cover and we didn't go to. Like La Paz, for example, the highest capital in the world, which has the biggest cable car infrastructure in the world. You have Lake Titicaca with its Copacabana beach, not to be confused with the Copacabana beach in Brazil. The carnival in Oruro, which is one of the biggest carnivals in the world, but again overshadowed by the one in Rio. You have the Death Road, the name speaks for itself. You have the National Park of the Flamencos. You have the Moon Valley with its amazing rock formations next to La Paz. The Andes Mountains with snow covering them all year long. And of course, the Amazon rainforests. So even though there could be a lot of hiccups along the way, if you approach it with the right positive mental attitude, like when a bus breaks down at 4 a.m. in the middle of nowhere and you have to get back on the back of an open truck for 4 hours in the cold, or when you're having to be interrogated by the corrupt police, I can imagine that can be unpleasant for many people, but I was actually enjoying every minute of it. And if you're like me and you're the adventurous type, then this is the perfect place for you. So not only the destinations you reach will be worth it, but also you will have a lot of adventures along the way. That's it for today, for now, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.